Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
The fourth dimension will collapse upon itself, you stupid bitch.
Shut up, I'm a man and I know what's good for me.
Bountiful penis. Amen.
Boy, my ass is sore.
You can get pink eye from farting in a pillow?
Yeah, but you gotta be bare-assed.
I'm gonna invent a toothbrush for your butthole.
It does the trick.
Paddington Bear.
He's a homewrecker?
Yeah, he wrecks homes.
You are a murderer of love.
I drink your podcast.
I drink it up.
We're back. Welcome back to I Drink Your Podcast for a special bonus episode here coming out at the end of August. We do appreciate your continued support and patronage. Thank you so much for following us on social media and continuing to listen to us through all that has been going on for us. So joined with me today is Emily.
Hi, everyone.
We've got Matt.
Hey.
And I am Ben, and we are here today to talk about August Rush, a phenomenal movie. A whimsical movie.
Yeah, that's okay.
A rhapsodical movie.
Yeah.
That is a adjective
that describes this wonderful movie. So before we get started today, let's just catch up with each of us. So Emily, what's been going on with you this last month?
Well, I've been moving into our house and things have been going pretty well. Haven't had anything too drastic happen except for our dishwasher broke within like 2 weeks of being here. So that was cool. But my husband and I went to a wedding in Texas, and because of where the venue was, I ended up climbing over a train to get to the wedding on time. My husband was officiating and he was already there, and a train stopped us, and there was so much traffic stopped on both sides of the train that we couldn't do anything. And it literally was right in front of the venue. And so after being like 20 minutes late for the wedding, and everyone else was late too, we just pulled over and I climbed over a train in heels. And I'm very proud of that moment.
Oh,
Wow.
very committed to that wedding.
Well, I wanted to make sure I saw Corbin officiating. He was so nervous.
Did they start the wedding like on time? Like if everybody was
No, they
late?
actually ended up starting at 7 and I got there at 6:30. So
Okay.
I was only a half hour late.
You didn't go over the top of a train, did you?
No, there are
Okay.
like places to climb all over trains. When was the last time you looked at a train, Matt?
I didn't know if you were going in between where they connect, or if there was like a ladder to go over the top, or
No, there are tons of little ladders in between.
maybe some sort of boxcar situation.
Yeah, I opened up and it was just like opened it up and was like, hello, I'm on this side now.
And Matt, how about what's going on with you?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of work and shooting. I got to go up to Michigan and shoot some camera operating for a drone, and that's been going well. And then, I just got my picture taken and I guess sent to the FBI or something because I was flying in Olympic Centennial Park, and they were like, oh, we're a terrorist hotspot. And I was like, well, it's not posted anywhere in your website. So
You don't remember the terrorist attack?
well, in Olympic Centennial Park?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, during the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, that's where the Richard Jewell bombing happened that movie's based on.
What movie? August Rush?
Yeah, no, Richard Jewell.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Never heard of it.
Well, now that you're in Atlanta, you should educate yourself about your area.
Probably.
Well, I guess if I had seen that movie, I would not be in trouble right now.
Ben, what's new with you?
I got fully moved into my new house, and that's been going wonderful. I also, in the span of 2 weeks, got applied for and got a new job where I'm now kind of like an assistant principal at a school instead of a teacher. So I'm really excited to be starting that.
Oh, the power.
Oh, it's gotten to my head already. Getting emails from teachers and being able to be like, no, I'm not granting that request. It feels so good.
But you haven't said no to anyone yet, have you?
Well, no, but I have that opportunity at some point that I'm excited to use. And then you'll notice that we are not joined today by Wesley. Wesley is still dealing with his recovery from his liver transplant. He's had some minor hiccups in his recovery that have caused him to be in and out of the hospital the last month. He is continuing to get better, though, and all of these hiccups, they say, are supposedly just things that happen when you're recovering from a liver transplant. So we're hopeful that he'll be better and able to join us soon because we miss him very much. And with that being said, well, we are back for this episode. We are going to take the month of September off to continue to let Wesley heal because we want to be here with him more than anything. So, well, we love creating content for all of you wonderful listeners. We also need to just acknowledge that for our own mental health and our own enjoyment of this process, we need to all be together. So that's going to be something we continue to wait for, and we're hopeful that Wesley will be better within the next month. So with that all being said, let's talk today about August Rush. Now, I'm going to read straight from the DVD's back cover.
Oh, I'm excited.
This one's a doozy.
He owns it, folks.
There's music in the wind and sky. Can you hear it?
God damn it.
And there's hope. Can you feel it? The boy called August Rush can. The music mysteriously draws him, penniless and alone, to New York City in a quest to find, somehow, some way, the parents separated from him years earlier. And along the way, he may also find the musical genius hidden within him.
Oh, man.
That's so brutal.
Like, who wrote that? I want to go find them and say, hey, I can't tell if you were just doing this to like add to the schmaltz and just silliness to this movie, or if you were for real about this movie. I just need to know.
Well, it's absolutely in line with the movie we've been given. Even the tone of the writing matches just how sickeningly schmaltzy, I think is the word you used, this movie is.
It's just like eating a giant bowl of candy and then someone asking you if you want to eat a cake that's filled with candy. And you're like, oh my God, please no.
That's so spot on. I want to know how far away the orphanage is. I know they don't say, but that's the first far-fetched. Runs away to New York City following the music.
Well, he catches a ride with a truck driver.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, he shows up in New York City in the back of a truck.
A fruit truck.
So this movie, you have to suspend disbelief a lot to be able to get through what they're trying to feed you. Were you guys able to suspend your disbelief when it comes to this story?
Not really. Like, there was nothing about this movie that made me go, yeah, I can believe this. Even the relationship between his mom and dad, Lila and Lewis, when they first met, I was like, yeah, I can see a one-night stand happening for sure, and people bonding really quickly, but it was literally maybe, I don't know, they talked for maybe 2 hours and then fucked and fell asleep, you know? And he's chasing down after her, and they're like longing for each other for their entire 10, 11 years after that.
Right. When his brother like took a picture of them and gave her the ultimate walk of shame. Yeah. They were like screaming. I guess that was believable. Like, I can't believe you did that. It was a lot. And I think I was able to basically cast aside how schmaltzy, if that's the word we're going to use, the movie is.
Come up with your own damn word.
It's used in the description in Wikipedia, but it seems like everybody feels the same way about this movie. It's too much. You know, he's waving his arms around, his eyes are closed, and I'm just like, you know, like I'm not really buying any of it. But I will say that the end pays off, minus some details with like the father's character, where you're like, does he know he's his son?
Yeah, right. No, let's save the end for a little bit later because there's a lot to dissect in that last song.
Right. So basically, I think the ending is okay for me because I think it's a good ending for what the movie is. Let me
sure. I've seen this movie quite a few times, and this is the first time I've ever watched it with a critical eye. And oof. Every other time I've watched it, I was able to just kind of get sucked into the story and go along with it and just get lost in the music, because I do really enjoy the music in this movie for the most part. Yeah, Emily's got feelings about the music in this movie. We'll get to that. But this time watching it, I saw how hackneyed the editing and directing in this movie are, where there are shots being used in the editing that just don't even make sense or don't give you a sense of space or what's happening. And the direction, especially during that ending part, is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree. When watching it, even seeing I can't remember. His name is August Rush. His name is Evan though, right?
Yeah, Evan Taylor.
He is like conducting and he's hearing different sounds and music. And there were parts of it that I liked the sound editing. There were just like pieces here and there of just like the city and him hearing those things. There were different aspects that I liked. But the way that he was moving through and the way that they were following him and seeing him, it was confusing as hell. And I honestly, I didn't like him as an actor because of the editing.
Yeah, I think the direction for me was what got me, because, it feels really over the top. Like, granted, we're supposed to believe he's, what's the word for, he's a prodigy.
No,
he's
a Mozart pod.
he's a Mozart prodigy, right? And they hit you over the head with that when he goes and stays in the church under the little girl's bed, and she's like, I found a prodigy. But just the way,
it's like my favorite part.
The way they did it was just like having music everywhere, and I don't know, it was just like every decision they made in regards to like his direction, as in like the child's direction he was receiving. Like when he's playing the guitar with his father in the park, and he's just like bobbing his head back and forth, like, because they're guitar jamming. I don't know. There's just so many like little details I didn't like. I do like the way they did kind of put together the stomp elements of like what he was hearing to hear music. So there were like parts of this movie that I did like, but overall it's like very like the story is the problem, I would say, more than anything.
Well, there is something very wrong with the direction when it comes to how the director chose to direct Evan and Freddie Highmore's character, because Freddie Highmore's character comes off like a Sheldon Cooper type autistic person.
Yes, definitely.
And I don't know if that's this movie trying to say that musical prodigies have a tough time just interacting with people. Like when you become a prodigy and you're a genius, like that's just something that suffers as a result. Or if that's just them not being able to tell this kid how to act within this movie and this story.
I don't know if they even knew enough about this story to have like character development and in-depth characters. Like it felt very superficial for every single character. Even Lila, it's like you have a dad that forces you to do stuff because and he like takes your kid and puts him up for adoption and tells you that he dies. And then you've got Lewis, who wants to be in this band but can't because of a girl. It just, every character feels kind of weird. Even the wizard, Robin Williams, I love him, but he wants to be famous through little orphan children. What? There just isn't anything that's fleshed out. And I feel like that just causes the whole movie to suffer when it comes to the characters and the writing of those characters.
I do think the wizard deserves co-creation credit for Evan's existence, though.
Yes, because of the name.
Well, no, not even the name. Him playing the music in Washington Square that they end up falling in love to. The wizard was there when he was conceived.
Yeah, that was my spot 11 years ago. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point, Emily. Like every single character in this movie is so surface level, including Evan / August Rush. Like you learn like a few tidbits about them, and then later on the movie will try to build the character a little bit more. So like in the example of Lila's father, he says on his deathbed, you know, like, oh, you do have a baby and I'm so sorry. We just had so much to do. So he's like, he's trying to like force his musical genius through her. But like, it doesn't read like that at all. It's more like, did you forge your daughter's signature and then your daughter was in a hospital and never thought to talk to a nurse or a doctor or, you know, like, it's just insane.
Your baby's dead. She just rolls over and goes back to sleep.
Yeah. So it's just crazy.
Yeah. No, I really struggled with the entire premise of the movie, and it didn't help that the characters weren't really fleshed out. So there really was nothing to root for, in my opinion.
I will say, I think Arthur, you know, the little boy,
I loved him,
was probably the most fleshed out character.
Yes,
because he had to deal with something. You know, he's like my favorite. I literally wrote down Arthur was a cool kid, smiley face.
Like I totally got that. I was like, no, he seems like a cool kid. But my problem throughout this whole follow the music premise of finding your parents, like obviously it's so far fetched to the point where this could be like a fantastical movie, but it completely misses the mark. And I wish the music was better for me. So obviously the cool banging of the guitar thing, I've heard that before, but you know, it was like, he's an 11-year-old kid. He's never heard this before. I got on board with that. Like that was really interesting. But for me, when I was reading about this, like I couldn't figure out why I hated his rhapsody at the end so much, other than it just sounded the same. The whole movie was the same to me. There didn't feel like some big conquest of his musical talent. Like he finally figured it out and is this big thing, you know? But I was reading about Mark Mancina, the musical guy, and he basically wrote the Rhapsody first. And then he took all of the different motifs in it and he just like plugged it into all of the different pieces. And that's what bothered me so much about it. I was like, I get what you're trying to do. And he distinctly said that he wanted you to feel like you had been listening to that music the whole time, but it wasn't subtle enough in the beginning. It wasn't hidden with layers of other things where then it was revealed. And that to me is a complete idiotic move. Like, why would you make it so that you've been listening to the same thing over and over and over again versus doing some other choices to make it a little bit more hidden? Like even the sounds, he like matches sound for sound with the different pieces. And I'm like, why would you do that? The
instruments he reuses for the melodies that they play. And then at the very end, you're like, wait, is August Rush plagiarizing his first Rhapsody?
I mean, he definitely plagiarizes Moon
you know, like,
Dance.
Wizard plays that theme, 11 years ago when he's conceived. And then throughout the movie, I don't know. Another thing that bothered me or struck me as lazy was anytime they cross-cut between Lila, his mother, and Louis, his father, when they were playing at the same time, like her cello would match up with his grungy rock. And
I actually did like that.
I liked it the first time. The second time I was like, you're going to do it again the same exact way?
Different song.
I know it's a different song.
No, I liked the mashup idea of that. That was interesting to me. But when I was looking more into this, I thought that they had written some of the music that Evan/August Rush was playing. And no, there were actually a lot of famous songs that they just used with the banging of the guitar. Like they just use famous songs. I'm like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just make something else up on your own? Like that just made it feel even worse. Like this whole movie was hyped up to me about this fantastical, amazing music. And then I'm just like, you didn't even do the work? Okay.
Here's the thing about that Rhapsody, and it kind of plays into a larger problem with this movie, is that when you're doing this motif thing that they did with the ending song, and you're taking elements of the music from the rest of the movie and plugging it all together in this wonderful, so they want us to believe, mashup of music. And it all is songs that Evan is supposedly feeling inside of him. Like all of the music I feel that isn't sung directly by Lewis or Lila or the Wizard or Arthur, like any music that is sung by them or played by them, like that feels like it's occurring within the universe. And all the other music I feel is just occurring inside of August Rush's head or Evan's head.
Okay. I can get on board with that.
The problem with that, though, is that it goes to show how little obstacle there is in front of Evan throughout this entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is just already inside of him, and there is no real obstacle that he has to encounter. Like the Wizard is kind of an obstacle that he has to encounter, but I mean, he gets into Juilliard like in one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing in his way throughout this entire movie.
Like he doesn't even feel any trauma that we see from the bullies in the beginning of the movie. Like everything just is like, oh, I'm okay. I just know I'll find my parents. And oh, look at that. I did.
Yeah. Every single night works out. He has a nice place to stay that's surrounded with music.
Absolutely.
The first night he meets Arthur, and then he gets to go to meet the Wizard, and he gets to play Roxanne, and then you learn he's like a harmonic guitar slapping genius.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the second night in a different, and maybe it's not the second night, but the next time he's away from that dilapidated theater, he's like stuck in this beautiful church, and then he gets to play the organ, and I don't know. Everything about this movie to me, I forgive at the end because I'm like, I like the ending, and I feel like so many elements leading up to that could have been fixed, and you could sort of forgive it, minus like you just have to. I don't know. It's like a really, really good bad movie is the best way to say.
Yeah, I don't hate this movie. Like as bad as it is, I still don't hate it. Like there's still something about it that I enjoy. And I think it has entirely to do with the music. Now, with that said, Evan only has one song inside of him. I truly believe he doesn't touch an instrument again for the rest of his life. Like all this music has built to this one song to get his parents back, and now he's done. Like he's got nothing else.
Yeah, he's nothing else driving him.
This is his Come On Eileen, and he's got no other songs to release after this.
I know I'm nitpicking, but I also didn't like how he had like little cups, you know, they were doing the rings on the cups as part of like the Rhapsody, and they had like garbage cans. It was very stomp heavy. What instrument do you play for the Philharmonic? I play cups. I play the cups. You know how there are those glasses of water that they have at restaurants? Yeah, I play those. I mean, okay, so like I think maybe I'm getting ahead of our conversation here, but like there's so many places like I felt like we could have fixed the movie, and I'm using fixed in quotes, right? So like I think it would have added more stakes if Lewis had found out he had a kid in maybe the middle of Act 2, or like he got to meet Lila in the Act 2, and now all of a sudden that elevates the stakes. Because
like they're trying
together,
to find him together. And then now all of a sudden the ending makes more sense. And then like, you know, the counselor trying to like place this child and then now find him. Like he needed to break rules in order to help Lila, right? Because they were saying like it's a 6-month process, and he had lost his kid. That's another like little one-line throwaway, like let's build this guy's character up a little bit more. Right, and nothing.
But like the stakes could have been raised for him for breaking the rules, helping Lila, because this is maybe the 5th or 6th time I watched it, but the reason he was able to put Lila to Evan was because they had both counted the exact same number of days they had been away from each other. And then he was able to go, oh, you know, but this is like the first time I'd put that together. So like I would have liked to see him break the rules in order to help her.
You're absolutely right. Just really quick throwaway. My whole world just changed because now I'm questioning the whole nature versus nurture argument, because the fact that Evan and Lila both were counting, and then Terrence put that together and he's like, oh yeah, I figured it out. They're related. And I'm like, what? What? Okay, I guess that's just like an inane quality about these two people. Whatever. That's fine.
Matt, you brought up the dad just kind of standing there at the end of the movie. Like, what is he thinking? Like, he's just found Lila. Lila is clearly knows she's looking at her son. We're going to assume August knows that he's looking at his mom and dad. They never showed like his line of sight of who he's looking at. I think he's looking at a different couple. That's my parents. But what is Lewis thinking? Like, he's just like, oh, that's the kid I met in the park. Like, that's it.
Yeah. That's what's super frustrating about the ending, because it works so well and it's such a great idea executed so poorly. Had he known, like he had a kid and then he got to go play with this kid in the park without knowing who he is, like that would have made that scene even more interesting. Like, we as the audience know, right, that he's his son, but like neither one of them, it was just like an interesting thing to both of those characters. They're like, wow, I like playing the guitar.
Yeah, I do think if they had done that scene of them playing the guitar in the park and then he finds Lila before the concert and then he realizes that was his son he was playing with in the park, like that's a huge emotional beat that we could have all gotten behind with this movie that I feel like was taken away from us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what the director and the writers were actually trying to do, but they just completely missed the mark. And I don't know how you could have. I don't know. It just seems so logical to me to put in better stakes into this movie to build that emotional piece.
And the only characters that really interact, I'm going to go ahead and say, are Evan or August and every single character. Very seldomly do they put these other characters in the same scene. And when they do, you're like, wow, that was great. Like, I hope they get to face off again. Like
when the Wizard and Terrence Howard
and the Wizard is exactly what I'm thinking about. They get to meet once, and it's basically like alluded that Robin Williams' character is saying, like, you guys don't care about kids, not like I care about kids. And then they never get to see each other again. So like
that would have been such a great moment at the end where Terrence shows up and like prevents the wizard from interrupting or something. And so August can actually meet his parents or something, like put it all together. Ugh.
Versus Arthur, who smashes the guitar over his back. And then it's like, you can presume Arthur's dead. Like Wizard killed Arthur in a cut scene for sure.
Oh, no.
But like, it's like there's so many missed opportunities where you're like, this movie is basically primed to be redone well, because you could do it so much more nuanced. You could put the characters and have them, actually meet other people than Evan. Just like, this is the next scene with Evan. This is the next scene with Evan. Oh, okay, now we're gonna see. You know what I mean? It's like so, I guess, boring is the right word.
Yeah, I wrote down that I was expecting and hyped up for something really incredible, but I was so bored. They kept telling me that this is amazing, but I didn't feel amazed at all. I kept thinking about the scene in The Incredibles with the little kid on the tricycle, and he's like, I don't know, something amazing, I guess. Like, that's what he's waiting for.
Right.
But I didn't get it.
And the problem there, Emily, is that the majority of this movie is just Act 2.
Yes.
And then Act 3 is just the song, essentially. And that's what Matt's trying to fix with what he's saying, and I completely agree with him that it's possible. And
I'll say, like, the Wizard also is very dimensional when he's collecting money. And like, this is like where you're very hopeful for his character. Like, oh, this is going to be an awesome dynamic character, with a lot of duality. He's collecting money from all the kids, he says pockets. So, like, it's a system, right? And then he gets to Arthur and he's like, oh my gosh, you didn't get enough money. You're one of the best. Like, okay, take some back. You're like, oh, wow, this guy has, like, he loves these kids. And then they just flip a switch on him to go full evil, where you're like, oh, now he's just the bad guy. He's slamming kids up against the wall and like losing his mind. And, I would have liked to see him have at least some sort of internal conflict, or maybe even external conflict about, the like stealing August Rush and bringing him around and using him for money. So like, I felt like Wizard was like, he was one of the biggest missed opportunities in terms of like a character to be built.
Right. But this whole movie, I felt like they were just copying other things. Like I said about the music, where they were just using other people's music and, Moondance. And the same thing. They're just telling the story of Oliver. That's the whole movie. And I didn't pick up on it until the wizard comes back and says he's his father. And I went, oh, shit, I've seen this before. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my God, this is literally. And then when Matt said pockets again, that didn't like stick out to me at all. But when you said that word, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is definitely just Oliver,
Well, if you're standing in that circle emptying your pockets and Wizard gives money to Arthur, who got the least amount of money that day, like, what are you thinking? Like, bitch, I made a bunch of money. Give me a little bit on top. Wizard played favorites the entire movie. His favorite just switched from Arthur to August.
Right.
But Matt, you believe the wizard is the hero of this movie. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. He's the one putting a roof over all these kids' house. And, everybody else, he's the one that truly felt loss this movie. He
definitely had the most arc-like existence within the movie.
Yeah, well, other than Arthur, yeah, I'd agree with you.
Right.
Because Arthur loses Roxanne, his guitar, to August Rush, and he realizes, this child prodigy is going to be better than him no matter what he does, as well as like the love of like a guardian, or let's use love in quotes.
Yep.
And then he, by the end, realizes, he's full of shit, and he like turns on him.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, at the very beginning, if we watched this together, you might have been annoyed, but like, Once I realized we were jumping back in time from like August to like when he was conceived, I was like, like 11 years earlier, because they were jumping back between like August and then like when he was conceived. And they did that at the very beginning of the first act.
I mean, I definitely would have been annoyed if I watched this with you either way.
I mean, you were annoyed watching it by yourself.
I was completely annoyed by watching this movie. I think I texted Ben at the beginning and I went, wait, people like this movie? Like, I looked online, 90% of people like this movie.
Is that what it is? No
apparently,
way.
And the reviews are so mixed critically everywhere. And I know that I don't have a super high critical eye at this point in my life, but I've watched a whole year of 2007 movies. I feel like I can tell what's good and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie is not.
Your eye is correct.
And I think that's the difference, because that 90% liking of this movie by the audience, we see that with movies that tend to manipulate emotions, like Greatest Showman, like Life itself, where critically they're not lauded or not thought of as very, very good, but then people connect with them. And before my watch this time, that's how I felt about this movie. Like, for some reason, this movie did connect with me, and I liked it until I watched it this time.
And I think that's why I texted you, because you had told me that you liked it and that you wanted to do it for the podcast. And as I'm watching it, I'm going, wow, Ben, I'm surprised you like this movie. And like, this was my first time seeing it ever. I don't know if you all can tell that, but yeah, there really wasn't a lot that stood out to me. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I liked the acting from the adults and also Hope. Honestly, my favorite line and the delivery of the line is Hope going, you remember how you said Mozart was a musical pod? And the Reverend's
Prodigy.
Like, Prodigy. And she's like, yeah, well, I've got one of those and he's living under my bed. It was just so fucking cute and adorable and weird. But her delivery made it so innocent and sweet, and I loved it. But otherwise, there just really wasn't anything in this movie that made me want to keep watching other than for this podcast.
I mean, I will always keep watching this movie because Kerry Russell is gorgeous, and I love her so much.
I really think that the reason I do like this movie, and like I begrudgingly like this movie, is because I love the concept. And I just genuinely think it's just a fumbled execution and story and so many missed opportunities where I can see the end and be like, I love them connecting, but I freaking hate how they even got there. So like, it was like, great idea, terrible execution.
Side note, Ben, did you know that Kerry Russell spent months learning how to play the cello?
Side note, Emily, did you know that Freddie Highmore spent 0 time learning how to play guitar?
Yes, I did. I absolutely did. They used some lady's hands to play guitar.
It was so obvious.
Just huge cutaway of like the biggest hands. And you're just like, wow, I don't believe that.
I don't know. I really got on the Kerry Russell hype train when I found out that she spent so much time learning to play the cello, because I played cello in middle school and high school. And so I was like, damn, she's really actually playing, although they didn't use her sound because it probably wasn't perfect. But still, that was really impressive to me.
Well, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, who plays Lewis, he's a musician. So he actually played his instrument and sang as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I had a line where his brother, you remember when his girlfriend leaves him because the Irish fight, like
oh
a
my
bunch
God,
of drunks.
yes.
She's like, I want to meet your family. Be careful what you wish for. But like his brother says to him, like, aren't you supposed to be in the car when the girl drives off into the sunset?
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty
Irish,
good impression, Matt.
Pretty good Irish
good.
accent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm all about that.
And I wanted Lewis to like answer back like, well, the sun is set already. And then that was just another missed opportunity. Anyway.
Do you guys want to play something really silly and dumb?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to play what I'm calling Rejected August Rush. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
So I have 3 stupid questions that I came up with while I was pooping on the toilet this morning.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
And I thought it was really funny. So here's my first question for you. So, remember the wizard, and he sees the words August Rush on a truck as it's driving by, right? And it inspires the kid's name. What were some rejected trucks that drove by?
Sorrow September.
Tyson Chicken.
What on that truck stands out to you all? Evan? Delicious? No, you dumb fool. Tyson Chicken. That'll be your stage name.
My next question is, so Van Morrison's Moon Dance was prominent for Lila and Lewis falling in love, right? And that's what they were banging. What was a rejected song while they're sitting up there and they're like, ooh, that song. And remember, it's 1995. What was the song that made them go, this isn't it. We're not going to bone.
That makes them not want to bone?
Right. We reject August Rush.
It's got to be Jungle Boy.
Well, how does that go?
That's the one that's like, oh.
Oh, on the harmonica?
It's Baltimore, or is it Tarzan Boy?
I think it's Tarzan Boy.
Tarzan Boy by Baltimore. Yeah, that's it.
Matt?
I want to say like, what's that song? It's called The Joker.
The Steve Miller Band?
Yeah.
The one that's like, I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. That one?
Yeah, that's the one I set. What's the one where he's like on a train and you gotta know when to hold him?
Oh.
That one. You gotta know when to hold him.
Yeah, okay.
What's that one called?
That's The Gambler. I think it's Kenny Rogers.
The Gambler. Yeah. Yes, that's the song I would choose. Thank you.
I love it. I was just thinking Beastie Boys on the harmonica would be hilarious.
It's like a rap rock out at like midnight in Washington Square Park.
Devo's Whip It.
Okay, last question for you. Ready? Remember that the original premise of this movie was he has to follow the music to find his parents. And the rejected original idea was to follow the blank to find his parents. What was he following to find his parents?
His nose.
You can't say them.
Yeah. It's an animated bird trying to sniff out his parents in New York City.
What do you see on that truck? Fruit Loops. That's his new stage name. I want it to be more of a crime thriller. I want him to follow the money.
That would be good.
I love it. I knew you guys would have good answers for those.
Those are fun, Emily. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime. While I'm pooping, I'm creative.
Good thing you spent so much time on there.
Yay, lactose intolerant.
Oh, God.
Well, final thoughts on this movie. Just a quick sum it up.
I'm not going to watch it again. The
Okay.
end. Like, I know that you guys both kind of said that you could just put it on and watch it and you like it. I have no interest in watching it ever again.
It's a super, super shitty good movie. And I hope it gets remade well. That's my final take on it. And, you know, if you want a fun movie to throw on where it doesn't matter what happens, this is your movie.
I'd say music teachers, please stop showing this in your classroom. There are better movies out there. This is not the one to show. I will continue to throw this movie on as I'm working in the background or just listen to the soundtrack because I do still enjoy the music, even though it does have some problems.
You know, a good movie for a music teacher to show would be Whiplash. And be like, that's going to be you. You don't shut your mouth and do your homework. As a teacher, how do you feel about that?
I'm all for that.
Okay, well, Matt, Emily, thanks for joining me today.
Anytime.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always. You're always welcome, Matt. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please subscribe, rate, share us with a friend or two. We will be back again in the first week of October with more new content. So thank you for checking in with us on this just little stopover. And we'll be back in October with our first episode of Darjeeling Limited, which is a Wes Anderson film. So that's going to be our first one back. And then we are wrapping up 2007 by the end of this year. So we're going to just basically be doing the hits that are left. No longer will we have to suffer through terrible movies. There will be no epic movies. We're not going to watch Norbit. There are movies that we are just going to avoid for our own mental health. So until then, stay safe, stay masked, and we'll see you around.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
everybody.